It's getting crazy. It's getting spooky real fast. Very, very fast. I told y'all, people have had enough. All of y'all in the Indiana Fever organization who have been lying about this girl injury, not being transparent, and all these things that the fans are feeling, the fans are speaking back. They do not appreciate it. They feel scammed, they feel lied to, and they feel used.
The WNBA world just exploded, and it's getting uglier by the minute. What started as a simple injury update has now spiraled into what could be the biggest scandal in women's basketball history. The Indiana Fever organization is facing calls for a federal investigation. Fans are threatening lawsuits, and Caitlin Clark, the golden girl who saved the league, might be at the center of the most elaborate cover-up sports has ever seen. This isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about lies, money, and the systematic destruction of the WNBA's biggest star. Let me paint you a picture that should terrify every sports organization in America. Imagine you're the hottest ticket in women's sports. You've single-handedly revived a struggling league, filled arenas that were once empty, and turned casual
to investigate WNBA's misleading practices. Wow. So we are here now. And what's crazy about all of this is that, guys, this is I'm not going to come on here and say that they're going to lose, because if there was an investigation going into this team, they're not going to lose this investigation. Oh, they're going to win. Whoever is representing Caitlin is going to win.
Fans into diehard believers. Now imagine your own team. The people paid to protect you starts lying about your health, misleading the fans who worship you, and potentially sabotaging your career for reasons nobody can fully explain. That's exactly what's happening to Caitlin Clark right now, and the fallout is about to get nuclear. Here's where this story gets absolutely insane. The Indiana Fever told the world that Caitlin Clark suffered a workout injury on August 7th.
Situation is officially a mess, because not only is there not more clarity, there's more confusion about what her timeline could be. And that's coming on the heels of it seeming to be pretty clear when Clark would return to the court, or about when she would return to the court. It was said on the ESPN broadcast on August 12th that Stephanie White hoped Clark would be back in practice this week. Open portion of practice, Clark is not seen. And Stephanie White afterwards said it's status quo until Clark.
Story, right? Wrong. Because while they were spinning this tale, actual footage emerged of Clark casually strolling through Phoenix on that exact same date, carrying a designer Prada bag like she was heading to a fashion show. No limp, no wincing, no visible signs of distress whatsoever. She looked like someone enjoying a perfectly normal day, not someone who had just suffered a significant injury that would sideline her for weeks. But wait, it gets worse. The Fever's head coach, Stephanie White, didn't just tell the story once and move on. She doubled down, tripled down, and kept pushing this narrative even as the evidence mounted against her. When reporters started asking questions, instead of coming clean, the organization's response was to treat the whole situation like a joke. Literal reporters were caught on camera laughing about Clark's injury timeline.
But all the signs seemed to point in the direction of Clark returning soon. Even Natasha Howard saying, "See you soon, Cece." Now it's like, wait and see. And there's further information coming out that Clark suffered a bit of an ankle injury in the midst of her recovery process. Did that hinder her return? One reporter saying yes, another reporter is saying no. Bottom line is, we need to know a little bit more. We don't need Caitlin Clark's in-depth medical report, but it's fair for fans to wonder if the Fever and the league's biggest star is going to return to the floor this season, or what the chances are. And she's been out of action for 5 weeks, so it's not as if some patient...
As if the pain of the league's biggest star was some kind of comedy sketch. We're talking about a billion-dollar entity. That's what Caitlin Clark represents to this league, and they're treating her like a punchline. The timeline discrepancies aren't just embarrassing, they're damning. While the Fever claimed Clark was hurt in a workout, sharp-eyed fans discovered something that should send chills down the spine of every organization executive. There's actual video footage of assistant coach Bond January stepping directly on Caitlin Clark's foot during a game. The left foot, the same foot that supposedly has the bone bruise. The incident happened on August 9th, but the organization claims the injury occurred on August 7th.
On their team. $1 billion damn dollars. And they're a bunch of clowns, a bunch of bozos. You guys look completely incompetent and unprofessional. The way this has been handled, oh, it's a joke. It's a joke. Look, and look, they can't say anything about conspiracy theories. You're complicit in creating them because you won't be open and you won't be.
During a private workout. The math doesn't add up. And when math doesn't add up in professional sports, people start asking very uncomfortable questions. What we're looking at here isn't just sloppy communication or bad PR. This appears to be a coordinated effort to mislead fans, media, and possibly even league officials about the true nature and cause of Clark's injury. If a coach or staff member injured the league's most valuable player and then
I just saw it in the last couple of days of Caitlin getting stepped on by a coach right there on the left.
Stepped on by the coach, and I think she's going to be all right based upon the grin on her face. But
the left foot, the one that's got the issue, she got stepped on. And today, I'm not even going to say Indiana Fever fans, Caitlin Clark fans are crashing out at a different level. And I don't blame them.
Orchestrated a cover-up to hide their negligence. We're not talking about bad luck anymore. We're talking about a level of organizational malpractice that could trigger investigations from multiple agencies. The impact on fans has been devastating, and this is where the legal implications become really serious. Thousands of people have spent their hard-earned money on tickets, travel, hotels, and merchandise under the belief that they might see Caitlin Clark play. These aren't just casual purchases. We're talking about families planning entire vacations around the possibility of watching their hero return to the court. One fan detailed how they bought tickets
timelines on her injury many times throughout this season, and the people have just flat out had enough. And it's gone so far
in advance, booked flights, made hotel reservations, and planned restaurant visits, all based on the Fever's public statements about Clark's potential return. When you sell a product, whether that's tickets, broadcasts, or merchandise, based on the availability of a superstar, while knowingly providing false information about that superstar's condition, you're venturing into consumer fraud territory. That's not just bad business, it's potentially illegal.
It's deceptive. Fans invested their hard-earned money in tickets, streaming packages, and merchandise under the belief that they were being given honest information. Instead, it appears coordinated efforts were made between the league and team communications to present a facade of hopeful updates, masking the true status of a beloved player.
The Trade Commission doesn't mess around with deceptive consumer practices, and when fans start demanding DOJ investigations, you know the situation has moved far beyond sports into serious legal territory. But here's what makes this story even more heartbreaking. Caitlin Clark herself has become a prisoner in this web of lies. Every time she speaks publicly about her recovery, it sounds robotic, scripted, sanitized. The authentic, fiery competitor we fell in love with has been replaced by someone reading from a PR handbook. Working hard, feeling good, just unlucky. These aren't the words of someone telling their own story. These are the words of someone who's been coached to stay quiet, smile, and not rock the boat. The broader implications for the WNBA are staggering. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player. She IS the league right now. She's the reason casual sports fans know when games are on.
Thinking that Caitlin Clark was her anticipated comeback. People tuning in and showing up at games, they need to understand that was because the idea, the aura that Caitlin Clark was coming back to lead this team into the playoffs.
Her presence fills arenas, drives television contracts, and keeps corporate sponsors interested. Remove Caitlin from the equation, and the ripple effects are immediate and catastrophic. Attendance drops, ratings collapse, and those lucrative sponsorship deals start looking a lot less attractive to companies who invested millions expecting to be associated with basketball's brightest star. This brings us to a darker theory that's gaining traction among fans and analysts. What if this isn't incompetence? What if it's intentional?
Fans felt excited when they purchased tickets, believing they'll watch Caitlin Clark shine on the court. However, that excitement turned to disappointment as misleading injuries kept fueling false hopes that she had played the WNBA. And hold up, damn, is they finna get her for line? Is they finna get her for line to the fans? Oh my God. Hold up, the WNBA and Indiana Fever Indiana Fever have repeatedly engaged in what seems to be a strategic ploy to drive ticket sales and merchandise sales by suggesting that Caitlin Clark's return was on the horizon. Holy-ish right now, bro. Oh my God, it's about to get red.
Clark came into the WNBA like a tsunami, shattering records and rewriting the entire narrative around women's basketball. But almost immediately, whispers started circulating. She needed to bulk up. She wasn't strong enough. She required more muscle mass to compete at this level. So what happened? She was rushed into intensive strength training. Her body potentially couldn't handle the rapid changes, and now her second season is clouded by mysterious injury issues. The timing is suspicious enough to make anyone paranoid. Just as Clark was heating up and the Fever were showing signs of life, suddenly
the severity of it, I think it's a really bad injury. I think when they rushed her back that one time, I think she hurt it even more and it pushed the timeline back.
Trying to come back and come back quickly. She needs to make sure that she's 100%. Her competitor wants to play. We're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness is the most important thing.
As bad as it might sound, I think it might be like a season-ending level type of injury, and they're hoping to get in the playoffs and they can somehow get her during the playoffs.
She's sidelined under this vague, constantly changing timeline. The team starts stumbling again, momentum dies, and the player who was supposed to carry the franchise into relevance becomes a question mark. Whether this was planned or just catastrophically bad timing, the result is the same: sabotage of the league's most important asset. What's particularly disturbing is the pattern of disrespect Clark has faced since entering the league. Referees swallowing their whistles on obvious fouls against her. Commentators nitpicking her every move. Veteran players.
Groin injury with Caitlin Clark is how it's been covered. The day after she had the groin injury, she was listed as day-to-day. And then a couple weeks after that, then she was listed to being out indefinitely. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court. And just yesterday, she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing, so they changed it from a game time decision to her
targeting her physically on the court, and now her own coaching staff potentially injuring her and then lying about it. It almost feels coordinated, like various factions within the league are uncomfortable with her meteoric rise and unprecedented popularity. But here's the beautiful irony in all of this chaos. Every attempt to diminish Clark's shine only makes her fan base more passionate, more loyal, and more protective. They're not just sports fans anymore. They're investigators, journalists, and advocates. They're collecting receipts, documenting inconsistencies, and building cases that would make professional lawyers proud. The Fever organization clearly underestimated the power of Clark supporters and their willingness to fight for transparency. The legal ramifications are becoming impossible to ignore. When Stephanie White appeared on ESPN claiming Clark was on track to return to practice, she allegedly already knew about the August 7th injury. If that timeline is accurate, she was knowing that—
I get it to a certain extent. The fans, the media does not need to know every little thing that's going on with Caitlin Clark's injuries, especially a star player like that. We will never know all the information, nor should we know all the information, and that's actually good for Caitlin. It protects her for when she does come back on the court. She can't be targeted. Teams can't use a certain injury or ailment against her if people don't really know what is going on. But the reporting of her timeline in general, they're
providing false information to millions of viewers, many of whom would base purchasing decisions on that information. That's textbook deceptive business practice, and it's exactly the kind of behavior that triggers federal investigations. Sponsors are starting to get nervous, and they should be. These companies invested millions of dollars in Clark's star power, not in an organization that spins fairy tales about her health. Corporate America doesn't tolerate being associated with scandal, and when fans start calling for boycotts and investigations, those advertising dollars can disappear faster than Clark vanished from the court. The league office is also feeling the heat. If national media outlets start hammering the story, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA brass will be forced to act. That could mean independent medical evaluations, stricter transparency requirements, or even a full...
Where someone this valuable suffers an injury and you don't tell people about it until 2 weeks later, once speculation about Caitlin Clark starts running rampant. Once people start finally muster up the courage to say, hey, this is weird. Caitlin Clark has disappeared and vanished. She doesn't talk to reporters. We're getting no legitimate information from anybody in the Indiana Fever organization. This is the biggest star in sport.
Scale internal investigation into the Fever's handling of their biggest star. Once the words league investigation start circulating, you know this saga has evolved from bad PR into full-blown crisis management. Perhaps the saddest part of this entire mess is watching what's happening to Clark herself. She's too intelligent not to know that the timelines don't add up. She's too savvy not to recognize the spin and manipulation. But she's trapped in an impossible situation where...
Anybody who saw this could have maybe thought something was up. Breanne January stepping on Caitlin Clark here. August 9th. Left ankle. That's where the bone bruise supposedly happened. On August 7th, which is what is being shared now. And, you know, some of these things you hear rumblings about, and you don't know exactly what...
Calling out her own team would label her as difficult or uncoachable. She's being silenced in her own story, forced to nod and smile, while others control the narrative around her career and her body. The Indiana Fever now faces two possible futures, and neither one looks particularly appealing. Option 1, they come clean, admit the mishandling, apologize to fans, and start treating Clark like the franchise-changing player she is. Option 2, which seems more likely given their behavior so far, they continue lying, fans continue collecting evidence, sponsors continue getting nervous, and eventually the whole thing explodes in spectacular fashion. When that explosion happens, and it feels like when, not if, Stephanie White and the Fever front office won't just regret lying to fans. They'll regret underestimating the power of Clark's fan base, the tenacity of modern sports media, and the very real possibility of federal investigations that could fundamentally change how professional sports organizations communicate with their customers. The trust between fans and the Fever is already...
Y'all have to figure it out. The people have had enough. I'm going to let you know exactly what I'm talking about. This thing is picking up steam, and it's a bad look. It's a bad look. It's a bad look, all because you guys refuse to be transparent about Caitlin Clark injuries and injuries around the...
Shattered. The trust between sponsors and the WNBA is cracking, and the trust between players and league officials is hanging by a thread. Every additional lie, every contradictory timeline, every dismissive comment chips away at the foundation that professional sports relies on. The belief that what we're seeing is authentic. At the end of the day, Caitlin Clark deserves better than this. She deserves honesty about her health, protection from those paid to support her, and respect befitting the transformational figure she's become for women's basketball. The lies surrounding her injury aren't just sloppy.
Not only the Indiana Fever, but the WNBA for misleading us, having us thinking Caitlin Clark was going to come back, because we all remember when Stephanie White was on ESPN, she stated Caitlin Clark was on her way to come back and practice and get ready to make a return of a lifetime to the Indiana Fever. Oh yeah, she said that when around the 12th. Well, judging off your sources, if she got hurt around the 7th, you knew prior to you going to ESPN that Caitlin Clark wasn't coming back when you said she was going to come back. You're lying. You're lying and you're misleading, and it's looking real.
Or unprofessional. They're dangerous to her career, her legacy, and the future of the league she's worked so hard to elevate. This story is far from over. In fact, it feels like we're just getting started. The question now isn't whether there will be consequences for this deception. It's how severe those consequences will be, and whether they'll come from angry fans, nervous sponsors, federal investigators, or all of the above. One thing is certain, The WNBA and the Indiana Fever have created a crisis that threatens to overshadow everything Caitlin Clark has accomplished.
To stay invested because the GOAT was supposed to be coming back. I mean, seriously. So let's just take a little of the temperature in the room. I'm not happy with the Fever front office and their fan communications. I have tickets I paid for months ago to go to next Tuesday's game. I have airline tickets. I have hotel, restaurant